The Australian government, in close consultation with InSpace and ISRO, has led out pathway to deepen the relationship, the bilateral relationship in space between India and Australia. This year, Sydney, which is the capital of the state of New South Wales, will host the 76th International Astronautical Congress, IAC, from the 29th of September to the 3rd of October. And we're really happy and proud of being the host for this event because it's an event that will bring together companies, global companies in the space sector, and we deeply hope that the Indian delegation that will visit has the opportunity to experience the Australian space ecosystem, identify partners, and catalyze discussions with Australian players as well as the international community that will be present. And New South Wales is perfectly positioned to be the host because it is a fantastic way to access test beds, conduct bespoke research and R&D in space, accelerate your growth, and really contribute to the obvious and core supply chain. And today's session, through the presentation by Rajat Kulshrestha from Space Machines Company and the panel discussion that we'll soon have, will give you an insight into how to access those conversations and how to integrate yourself into the New South Wales and international space ecosystem. On that note, I'd like to welcome Raj to the stage. Raj is a co-founder and CEO of Space Machines Company. Raj, please would you join us here and share your exciting news with us all?
Thanks everyone, and great to be here. Just want to give you guys an update. So Space Machines Company is an Australian space security company. So we build systems to help protect, inspect, monitor assets in orbit. And a big part of that is our system, which is the Optimus Wiper. Some of you can see it here. It's a 200-kilo satellite, highly maneuverable, carries a bunch of different payloads to both sense and affect based on the applications: defense, national security, intelligence, commercial, regulatory, and civil use cases. We were lucky enough to work with the Australian government through the space agency, this ISI program, created this project to support the Australia-India space collaboration. And as part of that, we have built a mission called Space Maitri. And the objective of that mission is to have one of our spacecraft fly on an Indian SSLV rocket next year. That'll be Q3 of next year at this stage. And it will demonstrate orbital sustainability use cases, so characterization of debris. We will release an experiment and then follow it, image it, to understand how debris behaves. And so a big part of that vehicle, this is what it's going to end up looking. We're just starting to build the vehicle. For those of you who will be visiting IAC in Sydney in September, you will see a full-scale engineering model for this spacecraft. And so we're looking forward to it. There are Indian companies, companies like Nanduru on the mission. There's also Australian companies and SDA and SSA. So we're carrying a bunch of payloads both from the Indian side and from the Australian side, then sharing that data across the two countries to encourage more collaboration between the two. This is one of the vehicles. We're working on 2 more vehicles at the same time. This is a commercial civil use case. We're also building vehicles for national security and intelligence use cases. So that's the vehicle. I wanted to take the opportunity today to very quickly release the mission patch. We presented the mission patch to Dr. Goenka yesterday, and today we have a short opportunity if you can put the patch up. So for those of you who can see it, we've tried to capture the collaboration between India and Australia. So the Lotus, there's an Australian flag, there's a bunch of symbolism. We'll be doing a much bigger presentation, a video at the IAC. We're hoping that we get a very high level government representation next year at the launch and start of quite a meaningful bilateral, but also as part of the Quad, a meaningful, tangible project that shows what can happen if you're collaborating across different jurisdictions for common use cases like orbital debris, sustainability, and others. So that's all. I didn't want to take too long, but just leave you with that, and happy to talk to you about the vehicle and its capabilities outside. Thanks.
Thanks, Raj. A real privilege for us all to witness and see this patch and to see the Viper in person, and which so aptly really captures the sentiments between both countries in this partnership. We move on now to a discussion where we can hear from distinguished speakers who have taken the time to join us today and to unpack the existing relationship and collaboration between India and the state of New South Wales, but also explore a few opportunities and shine light on some areas in which we can deepen and diversify those discussions. I'll call out the names of our guests in no particular order. Nathan Davis, Trade Commissioner, Australian Trade Commission, Austrade, please do join us. Rajat Kulshrestha, co-founder and CEO of Space Machines Company. Thank you. Dr. Vinod Kumar, Director, Promotion Directorate in Space. Thank you. Mr. Rakesh Bhan, Vice President and Head of Space Group for Tata Advanced Systems Limited. Thank you. Nanduru Sarath Chandra, DGM for Consortium Management, Marketing and Contracts for Aerospace Systems at L&T. And our moderator, Malini Dutt, who is our Trade and Investment Commissioner for New South Wales, representing and championing the New South Wales government's interest in India. Thanks everyone for joining us, and over to you, Malini.
Good morning, everyone.
Can you have the mic a little louder, please?
If you have any trouble hearing me, just shout out. I already see there is a barrier of a pillar, but let nothing be a barrier this morning. And if you can't see us, you're most welcome to come to my left and your right side of the room. So yesterday was a very good outing for us, for the whole Australian government. We were represented at federal and state level. So it's great to already showcase commitment to India. And we are living in very interesting times as well. So I'm sure every country is looking for an ally. And today I think this discussion will focus on that and the business opportunities that come out of it. So we have a good group of folks from leading companies who have global supply chains and present opportunities for integrating into those supply chains. We also have an innovative company from New South Wales, Australia, who's doing great work, and we just heard from Rajat. We also have the Indian government represented by InSpace, who's also doing some really good work, and there's great possibilities to collaborate. So let me begin with Rajat, since you made a good short presentation, and Rajat often passionately talks about one topic of how Australia can not only position as an innovation destination but present real business opportunities. So Rajat, can I please invite you to share some thoughts on what is the offer and how Indian companies can access Australia and access bigger global opportunities.
Thanks, Malini. I'll make it quick because I think there's lots of others on the panel that probably know a lot more about this than I do. I think for us, the natural relationship, and I focus on the Pacific, with everything that's happening geopolitically, there is a more imperative need for Australia and India to work more closely, and that means a secure supply chain. So for us, what's important is a circular and a secure supply chain. So working with the vast experience that the Indian space industry has, and then building products using the industry here, but then also seeing India and other markets jointly. that we can supply. And so when you look at applications, as I was mentioning before, national security is a big one. I think working together to ensure there is security in the Indo-Pacific is a very important one. It's what the US and allies care about. There's a massive market growing. And so for us, that's important. It's important to learn to work with the Indian space industry as Australia, but then also reverse how Indian industry can start to work with Australian product producers and applications. And so for us, over the last 5 years, we have engaged pretty deeply in working across, and part of the mission, doing this mission, is to learn how to use, for example, Indian launch platforms for our product. And by using that, we open it up for commercial markets here and overseas, but also a joint value proposition between the two countries.
Thank you. Interesting answer. And I'm going to bring in Mr. Rakesh Bhan from Tata here, who spoke about the Indian industry. Mr. Bhan, we have the Quad arrangement between India and Australia, and we're supposed to be allies. How is Tata viewing this? Because Quad, there's interoperability of space assets, joint EO missions, etc. There's a lot of provisions there. But Indo-Pacific is highly competitive as well. So how do you view Australia as a strategic partner in the scheme of things?
Good morning and thank you. How we see it and how other ecosystem companies see it is there's a little different. We represent some segment of this ecosystem here, and we are, as Tata, we are present mostly in all global countries. So coming to where Australia is geographically, that has an advantage for us. Back for 20 years back, when I was working in this for 2 decades, Australia was a destination where we find better connect to the satellites from the ground station in Australia. So NASA and ISRO used to right now also exploring the geographical location there. But then it's actually a space as a service, the ground station as a service, but there's no connect. We expect that there should be a connect between that. If I am sitting here, I should be owning a ground station in Australia. So that way it's my property there. So we wish that way because we will always see that this is our ground station and Australia is only a place and there is a local company to manage it. That's one part of the story, that's a small thing of it. But being Indian government and Australian government, when we see, from supply chain point of view, there's an alignment in a way that there is a trade barrier typically for space between Europe and India and Europe and America. And cost difference is also a big, barrier there. But we are looking towards Australian companies and Australian ecosystem for 2 reasons. One is there is no barrier to the technology. Second thing is the cost competitiveness. Unfortunately, till now, we don't find a single portal here that, I want to connect with Australian companies. I think there is a need that your side, it should be, a portal that, and our side, I think, is basically doing a good job. So we also have I wish we have a portal that gets connected, that it should be on my fingertips. Typically looking at Tata's, we want to play a bigger game, first of all. So, and we want to be competitive also. And we want to run this game for longer duration. So our 3 things here should meet our requirements. When we see for a longer duration, we want to establish our relationships in terms of incubating certain things, not only buy. So we don't, present ourselves to be a service provider only. We want to build something meaningful together. So that way, I think it has to be from both sides. So we are looking for partners who can actually incubate certain things for the future and define a problem statement and we'll work together for that. So that's our perspective on it. But definitely there are challenges in terms of what we've identified, what we should do next. And for that, we would like to connect with companies and find out the solution that they can work with us for next 2-3 years and next 4-5 years and then 5-10 years. So that's our 3 segments that we look at it that some companies should come forward. But looking at the startups and the ecosystem in Australia, I'm hopeful that this will happen shortly. That's my requirement.
Thank you. Before I bring in the next speaker, I just wanted to respond to you because we just announced the New South Wales budget and there's a specific category on innovation funding. So there's tremendous opportunities to look at co-developing in Australia and access some solutions. The next thing you spoke about is, technology directory and suppliers directory. These are always very challenging to put together sometimes because you also need the technology readiness level at a particular stage for, otherwise we can have directories of all sorts which are meaningless. We made a small attempt and I think on our desks, on the chairs, you will find a New South Wales suppliers directory. So that's some start and a sneak peek. You will need a lot of these players at IIC in Sydney as well. So I'll stop there, but I wanted to invite Nathan into this conversation. He represents Australian government, and also for you to respond to some of Mr. Bhan's comments, because I think we have the ECTA agreement in place. I wanted to firstly invite you to touch on, where do you see Australia's strengths befitting India's needs, and where do the two meet?
Thanks, Malini, and thank you for having me here today. So first of all, I guess, to directly respond, first of all, and Malini, you're in the same boat, that sort of collaboration agreement is what we absolutely looking for. So that's definitely a conversation I'll pick up afterwards. And certainly the database approach, I think SIA Australia have also released a database which catalogues all Australian space companies and sort of what they represent to the Indian interests. So there's definitely multiple touch points, and I think we can do more, certainly as our ecosystems in the space domain grow and thrive together. In terms of, to respond to the question directly, the opportunities that we certainly see, first of all, the shared ambition and innovation of our respective sectors. India has an ambition of, I think, is it 40 billion by 2040 in the space sector. Australia's ambition is the same, 12 billion by 2030, and then hopefully more by 2040. Our space industry is growing faster than GDP. The ambition's there, and the clear linkages between India and Australia and our growth segments are there. It was already mentioned, I think, by Raj and also here as well, our geographic location and proximity in the southern hemisphere is really advantageous for India for both launch and Earth observation. It's also, as we know, the collaboration for the Gaganyaan mission shortly upcoming for retrieval and also for communication links. And on a tech front, certainly our communication, our Earth observations, our data analytic capabilities, and also the access to educational institutions and research and development collaborations between Australia and India in space are areas that I see as strength. On the India side, certainly the manufacturing capability, the vast experience with launch apparatus and launching itself is things that can benefit Australian companies, as we're seeing through SMC. So those are the few areas that I think are really advantageous for us both.
Thanks, Nathan. And I'm going to get a similar view from someone who's not a stranger to Australia, an Indian government representative of InSpace. Vinod ji, you travelled to Australia last year as well, and you've seen things. You've visited 2 states with business delegations. Where do you see opportunities for us to collaborate?
Thank you. It was nice to visit this thing, and since I am coming last, they have already spoken. But I will give my perspective. Very interesting question. That first of all, we say that there is a launch opportunity for Australia. What we say? Because I am a carrier control guidance and navigation scientist. I know that because it starts 10 degrees south. So this 10 degree, if you launch a satellite, it will be equivalent to 10 degree inclination. India is 19 degree from Syrian polar. So you can assume what happens when we do the orbit maneuvers from there. I am sorry taking technical bit. So what happens? Maximum propellant goes there. So it is a beneficial there. That is the one aspect. And I really see other possibility is the ground station. You have already done with ISRO for Gaganyaan and other missions. Yeah, private companies also can use that opportunity because you need all over world ground network for the LEO satellite constellation and all. One very good opportunity which I see is there. I visited the Space Maitri company at UTS. It's a very good infrastructure there, supported by the labs of the university. That is also a very good thing. Likewise, I see in India also those facilities are not in Australia, they are available in India. So they can do those testing, those simulation studies can be done in India as well. So that's a very interesting opportunity to collaborate in that front as well. And I really like the Space Maitri, the space friendship, the terminology, I think very nicely, uniquely conveyed. Another aspect is that we are working in Quad. So what I see that Australia, the trade barriers with India are minimal. So there may be some this thing. So we want kind of this India, Australia, Japan and US. So there should be a kind of free zone where there are no barriers, at least for space technology. I don't worry about the defense and other things. So space technology for peaceful purposes. So we should try to work out a mechanism where there are no barriers of the trade. I understand that you have to apply, then takes time. So like this, probably we can work out in that direction. And I understand that in agriculture sector, space agriculture also some work is happening in Australia. I'm very impressed by seeing one facility at Adelaide. I think that is South Australia, right? So there's very interesting work where we can work together to simulate what is a space agriculture, how it looks. There's a lot of interest in this area as well, in addition to what my other colleagues have told. And I understand India and Australia companies are working good. Mach 33 and is working with Cicada Innovations also. And HAX 20 is also getting. So I think a lot of space machines are very happy that they are also collaborating. They are leading light in India. They are well known in India now. That's all. I hope I have answered your question.
Very well, and extensively you spoke about the Quad, and I know Nathan's organization, there's a Quad meeting that's coming up, and I think some of these points are discussed, and I'm sure for the space sector you'll be championing the cause. So your comments are well taken on board. Last but not the least, although I have another round of questions, Sarath. Yeah, sure, you can respond.
Yeah, because you touched on the Quad, do we have a special session or special chapter in the Quad for the space where few of the industries, are you participating in the Quad?
Yes.
Okay, so I wish few of the industries from Indian side have a meeting in the Quad, we invite them.
Yeah, there is a joint working group on space. And we are working closely with these countries. So what we do, we are finding opportunities in these poor countries. We have now virtual meetings. We are expecting in person maybe in October and hearing. So that time we try to see how we can have the Indian companies come together. But let the date come, that will come from the
Yeah, you told me about the joint working. Is it the joint civil space?
Civil space working.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who is the member from our side? Is it?
Yeah, see, our co-chair, I am there, I am participating on those duties from Space. They are the members from ISRO. DOS is chairing, the DOS Joint Secretary will be chairing that. So we had some last year 2, 3. So these questions we can take offline at this panel can.
That's okay, we can take it afterwards.
But also interesting to see that there's so much curiosity already, because so many times these multilateral agreements are just, designed by the government, and then private sector doesn't get involved, and we don't have the real outcome. So thank you for
that was exactly my point, because there's a joint civil space working group between India and US also, and I was always participating in that from the ISRO side. But then there was no participation from the industry. So I wish there is a participation from the industry for yes.
All right, Sarath, I'll bring you into the conversation. At L&T is known for nation-building projects, and we're talking about Indo-Pacific, highly competitive region. What is your strategy to go about, making potential partnerships to access business opportunities in this region?
Thanks, Malini, for that question. So, we as L&T are mainly into the all three sectors of space: upstream, midstream, and downstream. So, in upstream, we have been a growth partner for ISRO for building the launch vehicles, the launch ports, the satellite subsystems, and ground stations. So, So we see that as our strength, which we have built with a lot of learning and capability building that we have done. We do most of the work in our precision engineering unit in Coimbatore. So that is where our strength lies, and we are looking at business opportunities where we can collaborate, bring in our strength of manufacturing, processing, and the detailed designing that we can do over a front-end design done by some innovators, and collaborate together to address the requirements that are there in Indo-Pacific. Mainly we see that a lot of requirement is coming up from Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam, both in the upstream and midstream sector. That is where we see we can really contribute, and adding to that, even in the cloud-based services. We have a new data centers business which is now also gearing up to give cloud-based services. So as we can be an end-to-end provider for them for making a solution based on what their need is. Right, so that's where we see a great business opportunity in the global south and Oceania region.
Thank you so much. And I think, this bit about data centers that we spoke about in regional New South Wales, we have a lot of land and we're talking about the concept of green data centers. So I think it will be a good opportunity to further discuss, where India and Australia can meet on that specific opportunity. Vinod ji spoke about, the infrastructure that we have. I don't have a question for you yet, but I liked some of the comments you have made have really triggered my thoughts also. So you spoke about the infrastructure that, when you visited last year and you visited Space Machines. They're housed at UTS Tech Labs, which is very well known for engineering and IT innovation. But we have a lot of other infrastructure as well, and New South Wales government has also invested and is constantly investing in this infrastructure. The budget has made provisions to support advanced manufacturing industries. I wanted to ask you, Rajat, how have you benefited from this ecosystem, and how do you think international companies coming into Australia can benefit from this ecosystem that we have?
Look, I think a big part of us discovering how we work together with India, and I think to Vinodji's point, there is complementary infrastructures. I think when you look at India with its extensive experience in space, the testing facility, so as part of Space Maitri mission, for example, we're working with Anand's Technologies and ISRO to test the satellites as they arrive and then launch them on SSLV. In the same way, on the other side with UTS, there's a lot of skill set and capability infrastructure and communications on onboard processing. We've talked about communications a lot today. And so when we start to think about use cases for Viper and others in space, position timing, technology, communications, robotics, we've benefited a lot in terms of being able to combine access to a secure supply chain with production expertise, and then combining that with Australian innovation on the early TRL raising. So, using the vast infrastructure that exists in Australia on the TRL 1 through the TRL 4 and 5, and then using India's production capability to go from TRL 5 to 8 and 9. So I think there is a complementarity of infrastructure that exists across both. And for us, it's been a trial and error to get there. And I really hope as we go forward, more companies find that more systematically, because for small companies like ours, you don't really have a lot of time to go through that journey organically. So I think the big focus for us is how do we make that a lot more seamless to connect with companies on this side, but then also capability on the university and the innovation ecosystem in Australia.
That's a nice point you make about not only infrastructure but also skill sets, because I think even in Australia, few people, and what we really profile is high-end manufacturing, and in India, of course, it's about mass manufacturing. And I know you, Vinodji, I read your posts on LinkedIn, done wonderful work on workforce skilling, and this is a deep area of interest to us because a lot of Australian universities now in the education space, and Australia is taking a lead on it, are setting up campuses here. But it's not just the formal education system, we're also interested in vocational education across sectors of space. So where do you see opportunities for us to collaborate with the work that you're doing?
Thank you for the nice comments. Certainly, we could design very nice set of 10 courses covering skilling in each sphere in a detailed way. They are the 1 week course. It's a really capsule course, which is well received by the industry and academia. I say this when if an academician takes it, he can design 1 semester syllabus out of this. And our ISRO scientists, ex-ISRO scientists, are so kind enough to discuss and give them in the written. But not to be studying there, to prepare the next generation for take up the space technology as a career or subject in their life. We have designed the syllabus also for BTech space technology minor. We are helping to develop MTech syllabus and PhD syllabus as well. So in this, the major requirement which we see the lack of practical training to the student taking up. So in that direction, we have taken some 2-3 initiatives. So first of all is that imparting practical training to the student through model rocketry and CANSAT competitions. I am really happy to tell you that so much enthusiasm among Indian students to take up this challenge is very awesome, I will say. And one thing you will notice, the kind of CANSAT satellite they are making, we were thinking initially they may copy and take from there, but that was not the case. We were totally wrong. When we have seen there in finals, 28 teams came, all are different idea, they themselves have done. So that is the another thing, and we don't simply say announce competition, bring, no. We guide them all through the journey of 1 year or so. Our experts, ex-ISRO, ISRO experts will guide them, do like this is the, and critical review is not to discourage or do this thing to them. We tell them you should do this like this uniformly and come for the competition. So another very interesting is the immersion program. We have a Space Technical Center at our Space headquarters where we give opportunity to these students to come there for 1 week, stay there and learn everything A to Z. What is practically happens? How you design a space satellite, or what are the packages they use, how you test them, how you integrate them. All very interesting work is happening in that direction. Now to increase it further, because the requirement is increasing. I see all classes, wherever it is starting going full. So we have to meet the needs. Now it's not enough that we bring to our this thing. However, we want to impart them practical knowledge at private companies as well. So today or tomorrow we are releasing a survey requirement from private companies, NGEs, to give us your requirement, which area you can absorb, how many students from the colleges. We will connect them and we will provide them opportunity in private premises. You go work 6 months, 3 months, 1 year, whatever time there. So it will be a capacity building as well as it will be a help to them. I have seen the kind of work Indian students can carry out during the training is really marvelous, and they really do a good work because they see enthusiasm, they have the time, and they have all assets in their this thing, and opportunity to collaborate with the experts also there. So these are the certain things, and I really see a lot of opportunity with Australia. I have seen one of my or two of my students went to the Australia, did their PhD and all. That was really nice to see how they are contributing to our Indian ecosystem. So there is a lot of opportunity for collaborate. We can extend this thing, of course, through a government channel. I will not commit here. So through a process, but yes, government of India is very positive. PMs of both the countries are very good friends, and I see no hurdle in extending it to the Australia. Thank you.
And I may bring Nathan in because Vinod is saying that government should take the initiative. What are some of the Australian government programs that are on currently, just general and also specific to the space sector?
Yeah, so I guess the Australian government have a number of programs that extend across space, but what I usually like to talk about is the space intersect. So space development programs such as say the ISI grants and those sorts of things have been fantastic benefiters to the Australia-India space relationship. But within the ecosystem of sort of space and tech, we have, say, Australia's National Reconstruction Fund, which is usually typically an investment fund, but is there for sort of innovative tech application and manufacturing. The Industry Growth Program, which is sort of looking to scale tech solutions, which has the intersect, as I say, with with the space sector. Critical technologies challenges and other grant programs associated with critical and emerging technology. Again, these are space applications by their very nature. And a host of other sort of grant programs to sort of really address what I see as our sort of shared challenges across, say, Earth observation, which we've already discussed here today, but also security and maritime awareness, disaster relief and response is also a critical challenge shared by both India and Australia. And there's a number of programs which are too exhaustive to take up time for, but certainly exist along these challenges and share commitments aligned for increased collaboration for Australia and Indian businesses back in Australia. And I should also give a plug as well for both the university, the New South Wales government and the Australian government, that our services are there as well as a government program to support the space ecosystem between Australia and India.
Thanks, Nathan. Moving on to Tata, I just wanted to know, Mr. Bhan, a few years ago, the CTO of Tata TCS, Anand Krishnan, he was in Australia. Everybody was very excited because you ran a specific innovation program called COIN, the Co-Innovation Network. And I know that the group stresses a lot of importance on innovation. You also had someone called Gopi Katragala at the Tata head office level. Of course, he's moved on. I think he started his own company in Bangalore, but stressing on innovation. Would you like to share a bit about, the company's focus on innovation and some of the things that you're working on?
So there are a lot of programs which never get into the media and never get published. So there's always a bigger company, there's always a roadmap and in different directions. So let me tell you that before I come to the comments, about the skill sets and other things. Tata is of course worried about that also. But the main points are different for a small company and a larger company in terms of skill set, in terms of what to make are the roadmaps. See, when we see a startup, you see what they can incubate and what they can do new. When we see a larger industry, we see how a larger industry can scale. So that's where my friend from L&D also will appreciate this. Scaling is one of our strengths. And when you come down to manufacturing, it's a pain. He's making a satellite. When there's an idea, when it goes really to the manufacturing side, he has to find hundreds of companies who can make it for me. For each and every component, panels to composites to everything. To this, my submission is that when you are running a program for the people to tell them how to make a satellite, please take a class for the aerospace industry that they can also work for space. It took us, or any aerospace company, a while to understand that we can do space. So most of the things from aerospace go to the space. So I think that's one of the things that most of the aerospace companies from Australian side also should be in the game. When we talk about the futuristic technologies, we see what can make sense after 5 years, 10 years. There are programs, everybody is actually making efforts towards that. Bigger organizations like Tata also fund this research in the universities, and but going with a fund to a private organization, there's little of there's just to be done a lot of other things. But going to universities, going with R&D institutions and institutes, Tata is always working for that. But there are a lot of things which doesn't only make sense in terms of business, but for the society good. That's also in Tata's mind. But there are different Tata groups who have different programs, multiple programs. Of course, for space, we are just exploring it. We have not started, we are a very small group right now in Tata. So we are exploring things. We want to scale. We want to horizontally spread. That's our strength. Instead of having vertical, depth vertically, but horizontal spread is our strength right now. But we want to scale it fast. So that's where our strength lies. So we want to explore this with Australian companies also, and typically the aerospace companies who want to come to the space and do a scaling job with us.
Can I? Yes, please. See, basically what we see, the large companies are not investing in R&D, in space R&D, to say.
Okay.
You name the company which is there, but startups are doing world-class R&D. So that's the difference. See, money is with large companies. You should encourage them. And I'm seeing one company, one big company, Infosys, has taken up Galaxy. So that is the kind of thing Tata should come forward in this space. And we are not giving boundary that when you are invited for any skill course or something, we are not putting any boundary. Anyone is welcome in that. Including we have a course for lawyers, for economists and all sorts of. So we are not at all distinguishing, because it's space for all ultimately. So we are with you, very happy you invest and take up one startup and start doing a good R&D. That will be very nice. Thank you.
I see some of these models existing in Australia already. We also have something called the ARC, the Australian Research Council Training Center for UAVs and CubeSats. So that's advanced manufacturing, commercial space training, engineering, etc. for skill development. And I liked your comment on transition from aerospace to space. It reminds me, I think last year was it, that we were also looking at in New South Wales. Net zero is and energy transition is one of the key pillars that we're focusing on from an industry perspective. So we're looking at, there's a lot of mining capability in the regional parts of Australia, to how we can transition and utilize people of mining skill sets and look at green energy transition. So I think those concepts are very much prevalent, and which is why I think the case of exchanges, joint partnerships, joint supervision, etc. is a great idea to have. Coming back to Sarath and L&T, I know you've got a big project in Western Australia, chemical and fertilizer project that you're working on. And even yesterday, I think Mr. Goenka was talking about downstream, focus on downstream activities. You have a number of verticals within L&T group. You have an oil and gas vertical, mining, defense, each having applications. So could you comment a bit more on some of that work that you're doing and opportunities to partner with Australia on that?
Yeah, sure. So we have our Infotech arm, SIA Maitri, which has a special geospatial team specifically working on all the geospatial and GIS needs of the group companies, be it hydrocarbon or anything. And I'm sure in Australia also what they have done, these technologies are used. Now, coming to space-based technology, what we have seen over years within our group companies is, for the initial setup and like locating the area and mapping the area, we need vast kind of data, which is really important that we get it from a satellite, from economics perspective. But when we get into the deeper surveying or topography survey, that kind of a thing, we need resolutions which are 10 centimeter or 25 centimeters. Which is not really freely or cheaply available from satellites today, right? Compared to that, the terrestrial ways of doing it through drones or total station makes much sense to our ways. That's what we have seen as a comparison. So yeah, so in the initial phases, we are using space-based data, but when we get into the execution phase, it's still being done to the terrestrial ways. And to answer your question, yes, we are very keen in looking at other downstream areas where we can discuss with the downstream capability builders and show what we are already doing on our projects, and also learn from what they are doing more from space-based data. Yeah, that's something which we are keen on looking at.
Thank you, and I think that makes the case of visiting IIC all the more important. We have a number of, a special segment where we have industry players joining in, and we spoke about agriculture, but also mining, oil and gas, energy, fintech, health, AI, cyber, smart cities. So I think, yes, absolutely. So you'll find it quite relevant. And so I think that was all I had, but I've enjoyed having this discussion and also the exchanges that we've had. I think this is very important when we have exchanges like this, because otherwise we just come to events and go back with nothing. So this has been really good, and I just wanted to say that a lot of people, Australia, I've worked with the Australian government for a long time, first at the federal level and now of course with the state government of New South Wales. Australia is doing some fantastic work and very shy at promoting what they are doing. And I think yesterday I made a mention of black box, but also Google Maps, Wi-Fi, bionic ear. So these are the sort of inventions, the vanadium bread flow, redox battery. All these have come out of Australia. There's a lot of other good work. For example, I was helping another client on green steel recycling. So if you're really talking about decarbonization and energy transition, I think you need to come to Australia and see what's happening, and you've got a great example in Raj as well of a small company doing great things. So I think I'd like to close on that note, and thank you for coming. Do take the opportunity to interact with our team, and we're here to support you. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the panel and to our moderator, and thanks to the guests. We are now open for some questions. Please feel free to meet with the panelists and chat with them one-on-one.